Xi Jinping has said that he needs to put bilateral relations on the right path. Chinese state media kept mentioning the common interest between the two countries. How do you think Beijing is viewing Li's election in terms of its own strategic interests, and does it like what it's been hearing so far?
Yes, I think China is really, to a certain extent, really happy about the outcomes of the last presidential election because, Li Jae-myung got voted in. And just because, he's coming from the Progressive Party, and Progressive Party leaders have had a, tradition of being, friendly to China, and to a certain extent also, on the same page with China on a lot of issues. So that's where that notion of, common interest, comes from in Xi's statement to Li Jae-myung over the phone call.
How clearly is it, though, the common interests, or is it, the more nuanced approach that Professor Kim is talking?
Yes, that's right. And here, I don't think Xi Jinping really particularly emphasized on the common interest part there, but he instead, emphasized, respect of each other's, core interest. This is where it gets really misleading to South Korea, because while China has defined its own set of core interests, South Korea has not. So what's their mutual respect there for, right?
The Yellow Sea, the West Sea,
yeah,
for
exactly.
example.
That's an area of potential, conflict instead of, core interest. He also recommended, President Lee to come along with the notion of free trade and multilateralism, and this is where the trap is. The Chinese concept of multilateralism and free trade is totally different from ours. It's, China-centric, and with only neighboring states exclusively, and without the United States participation. They never invite the United States. They never invite U.S. allies at all. So this is where it could get misleading, and we have to be really careful. And free trade also too. China is committed to opening up the country to the world, but instead, they have been raising the bars of non-tariff barriers. And there's so many, discriminatory measures, that is happening within the soil of China.
Professor Kim, of course, core interest for China means Taiwan. Let's talk about what Lee has said. He said that South Korea shouldn't get involved, except to say 谢谢 to both China and Taiwan.
Yeah.
Was that all to curry favor with China, or does he genuinely believe that? There's something else that he said. He told Time magazine when they asked, will South Korea help defend Taiwan? He said, I'll think about that when the aliens invade Earth.
I think it's both, but the more of a primary objective, or I think he truly believes that South Korea could stay away from a contingent situation over the Taiwan Strait, not particularly because he wanted to curry favor from China. He doesn't want to get entangled in unnecessary conflicts.
Is that a reality, though, with the U.S.,
I don't
the
think
mutual
that is
treaty?
I mean, not just that, but because of many other reasons. For instance, if something really bad happens over the Taiwan Strait, I'm pretty sure that Kim Jong-un would do something very stupid on the Korean Peninsula because of interconnected nature of these regional conflicts in this new Cold era. Major conflicts are interconnected. And Kim Jong-un, if you take a look at the document that came out from North Korea, clearly stipulated that claim that if the U.S. takes part in conflict situation over Taiwan Strait, and North Korea would make sure that U.S. would pay. What would that mean? That means to create some kind of a commotion on the Korean Peninsula. One thing that Americans hate the most to see is to experience like a 2 MRC that stands for two major regional contingencies. If the U.S. will have to deal with two major regional contingencies, one over Taiwan Strait and one on the Korean Peninsula, that'll make American war efforts very difficult, very difficult. So I don't think it's possible for South Korea to stand back and not really getting entangled over Taiwan Strait. And that's one thing. And if say that, I mean, shouldn't be happening, but say that China takes over Taiwan, that means now the defense line of the U.S. or of a bloc of liberal countries will get a little closer, not just a little closer, to way closer to the Korean Peninsula. It's like the Yellow Sea. We call it Yellow Sea or West Sea. It's going to be the Taiwan Strait. That doesn't really bode well the future of South Korea's security
Yeah,
policy.
let me put it this way. Let me put it this way, including President Lee. Not too many people have read the contents of the Iraq-U.S. Alliance Treaty, and it's not a political decision. It's not going to be a political decision. And I raised this question to American pundits and writers and specialists, experts. Nobody has read it.
Right.
Yeah. In the treaty, it clearly states that if there's a contingency that definitely threatens the mutual interest of the two countries in the Pacific, then they're obligated to going together and to defend the mutual interest. It clearly states that it was in the treaty between the United States and Taiwan back in 1954. And Japan, Philippines, Australia, and New Zealand, all the treaties included that clause. But nobody has read it, and people tend to forget. So it's not going to be a political decision, and the United States does not demand your military contribution without any grounds or legal basis. They clearly have the document, which is legally validated, and based on that fact, that we'll be compelled to make that choice, to make that decision.
Right. So there will be no choice.
Yeah.
Is what you're saying,
Yes.
Professor Choo. So, he appears to be, President Lee, downplaying essentially what the Americans are now ramping up to warn against. So we had Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth at
Yes.
Shangri-La. China threat is real. It could be imminent. Indo-PACOM Commander Samuel Paparo. China drills a rehearsal to unify with
Yes.
Taiwan. They could switch to actual military force at any moment.
Yes.
What impact does his comments, therefore, have on that U.S. security alliance?
Oh, very much. So J.D. Vance, when he was a vice president nominee back in February of 2024, he attended the Munich security dialogue, and he had a chance to deliver his speech at a panel. And at that panel, he clearly stated the incoming Trump's administration's position in China, that it's not going to be a decade-long competition between the United States and China, but they see it going beyond a decade. J.D. Vance said, he declared that it's going to be a 40 years of tug of war between the two. So I think they're really serious about it, and especially when it comes to military potential of China, the way that it has been going with its own military and weaponization programs. Not only that, but also the digital and drones and so-called fourth industry military weapon systems. I think this is where they get really worried about.